We want to thank our new sponsor this week, Energy Solutions, who is an international company in nuclear waste. They do an outstanding job. They're located here locally in Roane County and Anderson County. We'll have more to say about them next week. Welcome to Between the Lines as we do our third segment of an 8-segment energy series. And this is a unique one. This is different. It's not somebody producing this or somebody, but this is a government show about those leaders in government who are making things possible in Anderson and Roane County and in Oak Ridge. And it's the first week of June, so summer's here and we're getting ready to roll. So I want to take time to talk to these. Oak Ridge is growing. Oak Ridge comprises 2 counties, unlike Oliver Springs that has 3. And but this is important, and we've made a lot of progress in our communications between the county and the city over the last few years, and we've done some joint stuff. I give Sean Gleason a lot of credit for that because maybe the missing link has always been Oak Ridge, but who has a lot on their own plate. But now Sean sat down with me 2 years ago. He saw the vision. I think the mayors have always been ready to participate and do, and they've done some wonderful things. So I want to introduce everybody. Most people know Terry Frank, who is the mayor of Anderson County, who's joining us. They're all part of this, what you'll hear about tonight, right? Sean Gleason, Oak Ridge City Council. Wade here, my good friend from Roane County, is either the mayor or the county executive. Which one are we going? We're going county executive tonight. We're trying to get it changed, but we'll get that done. I'm going to let you guys do most of the talking, which is unusual for my show. But we'll get it done, and we'll get it done. Why an Oak Ridge corridor? What is an Oak Ridge corridor? Why do you need it? I don't understand. You want to go? You guys facilitate among yourselves.
Yeah, sure. By all means.
Terry, we're kind of pointing fingers on
That's okay. Everybody get 2-3 minutes to weigh in.
Sure. If we can each talk about it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I think one of the stories we've told many times where we started to gather a sense for the challenge that we had was about 2.5 years ago. Stuart McWhirter, who's the commissioner of ECD in the state of Tennessee, came to ETEC one morning and was talking about how LG had chosen Montgomery County and Clarksville for their new $3.5 billion manufacturing facility. And Stuart, or the commissioner, had asked the president of LG at the time, why Montgomery County? And he said, alignment. This community is aligned. We get the same answers top to bottom. Everybody working together, pulling in the same direction. And that was the answer. So I'm sitting in the corner at ETEC thinking, man, I've worked in economic development in Oak Ridge for a while.
Yes, you did.
And
great job.
Alignment wasn't one of our strong suits.
That's right.
At one time, there were 17 different organizations that could claim economic development across Oak Ridge Reservation, and they all worked fairly independently. So we began working together in about March or April of that next year to pull together all the stakeholders across the reservation who did have some stake in economic development to just put us at the table and say, do we want to work together? And absolutely across the board, the answer was yes. And then over several months, it kind of fell to the 3 of us as part of that group and the representatives of our governments, of course, to figure out what that needed to look like. And that set into motion what came up today. So I'll let you all pick it up from there on how we kind of got to here.
Well, Alan, I think one of the things about the Development Corporation is, you know, as Wade just mentioned, a lot of these economic development organizations have been out there and been at work. But we needed something that was more formal between local governments and the leadership of local governments. And when we look at federal partnerships or state partnerships, people want to work with people who work well together. And we work well together. The Development Corporation is just one more step in formalizing that alignment that Wade has talked about. All of this is focused around nuclear, and nuclear opportunities, nuclear supply chain. It works hand in glove with what the governor's tried to do with the Nuclear Council, with what we're seeing from the Trump administration and Secretary Wright. Nuclear goes back to, even before President Trump, with the first President Trump, President Obama, President Biden. There's been all of this energy around that, and Oak Ridge's history is, it's nuclear. And so this is really just a formal process to have the ability to work more focused on that area. It doesn't seek to supplant, I want to be clear, it doesn't seek to supplant the economic development, opportunities for Anderson County government or Roane County government, or Knox County, but it's in the nuclear space. That's going to be the focus point.
And that's why you're on an energy series. So the question is, and I think before we let Sean get at that a little bit, it's board of directors, it's Oak Ridge Corridor. How does that framework look, Sean? I mean, in other words, you three are on the board.
Correct.
You're all leaders, obviously, because of the community. Is there a person hired to be that, or is it just a conceptual government thing? Who else is on the board of directors?
Sure. Yeah. So for the Oak Ridge Development Corporation, the chair of the board is Gerald Boyd.
Couldn't pick a better man.
Great guy. Fantastic leader. Our vice chair is Dave Beck with CNSY 12. You have representation from ETEC, Chambers of Commerce, Roane County Industrial Development Board, Anderson County Economic Development. We've brought together all of these disparate individual stakeholders around a specific market sector and said, hey, we're going to act as a central point of confluence to focus development and the economic development strategy for the corridor out of this single body. All right.
Now, define the geography of the corridor.
Sure. So
I understand the Tennessee Valley Corridor. You're on that board, too.
I am.
I understand that. But what is the Oak Ridge Corridor?
So the Oak Ridge Corridor, in the way that we speak about it right now, is Anderson County, the city of Oak Ridge, and Roane County. But that is not the...
Is that a physical corridor? Are you talking about the turnpike? I mean,
no, sir.
The corridor makes me think you're running down this.
Sure. Yeah, no, as it should, right? So on that, a couple points around the naming convention for the Oak Ridge Corridor Development Corporation. One is we kicked it off with Oak Ridge because of the brand identity that Oak Ridge has as it relates to nuclear. And that's important, right? So from a business perspective, we need to have our brand identity, which is a national brand identity, be right up front, right? Now, sitting here with Anderson County Mayor, Roane County Executive, and sit with them and saying, hey, let's start this with the Oak Ridge Corridor. It's not about Oak Ridge. The corridor piece matters way more internally and I think regionally here than the Oak Ridge does. Oak Ridge is an outwardly facing brand identity. Yes. That allows the entire nation to understand, I associate Oak Ridge with nuclear, right? And again, it's very, very important for us to do that, right? Because if we went with any other naming convention, you're going to have to spend time explaining to people what
Let me ask, outside of the brand, is the corridor a physical place?
So yes and no, right? It is physical in so much as it encompasses this region, for sure. There is not a map that we're going to have that we're going to draw a capsule around and say this and only this is the Oak Ridge.
Well, first thing, I think of West End development, but I think like this, I think if you run a line from the Pellissippi Parkway and you turn left on Illinois and you go, that's the corridor for me. I mean,
okay.
They're not going to build anything in Glenwood, and we're not going to build anything in Emory Valley.
So let me.
Yeah.
You guys go.
No, please. No, you're better with that one.
Well, just so the name, obviously, Sean is dead on the brand of Oak Ridge, which is a huge shift for the city because 20 years ago it was a secret city. There's a Secret City Festival and the things that we celebrate there. This is the flip of that because we have to be outwardly focused to push the brand and let people know that we're the most nuclear-friendly community in the United States of America, right? So there's that piece. But Senator Lamar Alexander, and even before probably when he was governor, was coining the phrase Oak Ridge Corridor. And he meant it at the time in a little bit different capacity of a Pellissippi Parkway, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So we've kind of commandeered that phrase for branding purposes. That being said, that vision that he laid out is absolutely what we are chasing right now. And it's such an important piece, and to the extent that he's going to come speak to us here in a couple of weeks as a board.
But we've shifted the geography a little bit. I mean, the real opportunities for for all three of you at the table in your governments is to, especially Roane County, is to start building at the country club and just keep going.
Yeah, so
that's where all the land is. Am I right?
Yeah, so let's
Terry will add something later.
Yeah, let's
exactly. Let's unpack that just a little bit. So the way that I think about this is if we take a dartboard and you laid it down, your bullseye is going to be your federal reservation in the city of Oak Ridge.
That's right.
Right. So we're talking about economic development here. We're talking about public and private investment taking place against land parcels. So let's just pause there. Right. So that land, that bullseye land, that is either legacy reservation land or in and around the city of Oak Ridge, is sort of your grade A real estate. That's where your Aranos, your Trisos, your primary OEMs are going to want to locate. Okay. The impact of an Arano or a Triso is that you have secondary and tertiary market spaces, which means we need secondary and tertiary land parcels and allocations made in the dartboard as you move your way out. So that directly is going to impact parcels in Anderson County and Roane County. Right, that's just pure land use at that point. Right. In addition, and as this becomes extensible, that's going to impact Knox County, Hamilton County, Blount County, right? So this will grow. So the concept of the corridor will expand over time because as you get to your third and fourth order effect supply chain, they may be 65, 85, 100 miles away servicing firms who are located
You're getting way out, so I'm going to ask a couple questions and break it back. All of that was excellent, but I don't want to come back to frame one. Number one, and Mayor Frank was very instrumental in this, as was Mayor Lynch before her. But, I mean, we have an automotive cluster in Clinton. I mean, we have built a corridor, or whatever you want to call it. If you get out to Eagle Bend, you get around. People from all around come here because it's well located. I was in some tax tips negotiations earlier, so I understand. 25 years ago, I understand that concept is built around Clinton, and the automotive suppliers and the big plants all depend on that area to grow. So that's kind of an example of Anderson County. I think for me though, you can't do that without an M&O. You got to have a big contractor out there in the West to make it happen, don't you really? I mean, you can't. What are you going to do with a bunch of small companies if you don't have some large, or maybe the nuclear industry itself fits that mode? But you and I talked in depth about the need for something to be developed in the west end of Oak Ridge that would attract.
Oh, for sure.
So, I'm sorry.
Well, I think that's the Clinch River project and SMR. I mean, that's the goal that we're all shooting for. I mean, the legislature put $50 million in for, I know that's a small amount in the whole scheme of things of what it's going to cost for an SMR, but then we have all the other nuclear development, Kairos Power and Triso and BWX and Arano. So I think those are major players, Alan, that are going to need, whether it's legal support services,
airport. Just threw it in there, guys. That's my job. Yeah.
Well,
did you get your IB1 done?
No, sir.
Didn't get it done? Okay. I know it's on I didn't know it was on the agenda. I saw it on the agenda. Go ahead.
No, we deferred.
But anyhow, I mean, I think those are the major players that you need. It doesn't necessarily need to be a government contractor that is leading the charge. And I look back at when Sean first came to town and was first exploring his time on council. That was one of the questions he asked. What if all of a sudden one of the big contracts in the city of Oak Ridge dries up? What happens to us as a community? What happens to our workforce?
Yeah, I remember that.
And to that point, too, I mean, on the West End already, you're seeing just in current commitments around $10 billion in private investment. So you add that together, the presence is on the West End already. Now we're focused through the corridor on identifying what supply chain needs to be in the nuclear energy industry and then helping accommodate building that ecosystem that really, and this is when we get to the second part of our interview here, we'll need to talk about the urgency of the mission. Yeah. But it really can only happen here because Oak Ridge is, number one, a nuclear-friendly community, and there's only a very small handful of those across the country. and it's the only one that has about 1 million people within a 50-mile radius, so you have your workforce too.
Yeah.
So there's only, some of the things that need to happen to support this national mission that we need to talk about can only happen here.
And you got to look at the land too. I mean, all the cleanup that has happened, and here we are. We're completing the circle. That it's really a magical time. I mean, I hate to use the word magical, but the right time, the stars aligned, where you have a lot of this cleanup coming to fruition.
That's right.
And now we're reindustrializing. We're doing what the entire mission was about, putting it back in the hands of the private sector, putting it back to national use. It's all kind of aligning right now in more ways than one.
And I think we have the most accessible, that I've met with and talked with, but we have one of the most accessible DOE secretaries we've ever had. Not to take anything away from the others. This one's just close to Chuck, and we have the appropriations chairman. Everything's lined up. Governor Lee's very pro-nuclear, trying to leave a legacy there. But so everything's lined up for us to push through the West End and get a lot done.
That's true.
I can't remember a time when I've been following the Energy Secretary on Twitter.
Right.
And every day it's just
Something.
I mean, multiple things. It's so exciting. So, yeah.
You mentioned West End.
Yeah.
This has got to be about more than the West End. It is just as important for me for there to be success in Anderson County, because we have to stay in an active partnership together. This whole thing falls apart if we're both not completely engaged. So it has to be good for both counties on either side of the reservation.
Yeah.
So while there's a lot of activity now there, looking into the future, we're looking at property transfer opportunities on both sides of the reservation.
But, I've known Mayor Frank 30-plus years, and I know she would be just as excited about Roane County doing well as Anderson. She's just that much of a
Well, she was a piece of the Arano recruitment team, which was in Roane County. Yeah.
Citrus is coming on. I'm not. But anyway, and John Luke's fantastic. I really like him a lot. I think that I say that because it's the low-hanging fruit. The West End's the low-hanging fruit. It's not the overall picture in 2040, but it's the low-hanging fruit. We have opportunities to grow fast there, which will help build the overall picture that you're talking about. Let's move to one thing real quick, and you talked about it for a second, and that is, and it's part of your scope, and that's education and jobs. What is your corridor doing? What you guys, as the leaders of the corridor, what are you doing that is helping facilitate that? Working with the state for programs. I was at Rose State visiting yesterday. They're going to come on, and they borrowed an ORNL gentleman out there who's doing some nuclear training on 2-year certified
Project
programs.
management.
Yeah. Well, this one's a little different. That was one of them. There was one was project management, one was nuclear stuff, and then there was a couple of others. And then great cybersecurity 2-year program, and some other stuff. So anyway, bottom line is, what's the plans? What are we going to do?
Well, I know the governor has already been with the Nuclear Council. His team has already been investing in some of the post-secondary education, whether it's University of Tennessee, Roane State. As Sean mentioned, this goes beyond our particular area, our particular geography. You have an investment in Tennessee Tech with nuclear programs down in Cookeville, all feeding that need, that supply chain need for workforce development. But Alan, I guess I know Oak Ridge High School is doing some programming. We're starting to have some conversations a little bit more in depth with our school board. So for the first time that anyone ever knows of, we had a joint meeting between the Anderson County School Board, Roane County School Board, Anderson County Commission, Roane County Commission. It was very exciting, wasn't it, Wade? Absolutely. And after that particular meeting, our director of career and tech went back to his Anderson County High School, the Career Tech Center, and they put in place a simulator program for excavation. UCOR has helped advise on that program. What does it need to look like? Because they need folks in their team. And so, I mean, these partnerships are just starting to develop, Alan, where we're having a little bit more conversation about what we can do in the K through 8, not just high school and post-secondary.
You're right about a lot of communities around the country working in energy full-time. A lot of communities around the country kind of take ownership of that. You go to Amarillo, or you go to other places, or you go to Nevada. It's just a lot of different places that the town. The key here is that when Roane County builds a plant, if Arano gets built, and it's there, and we have some of those people live in Anderson County. I mean, there's jobs being created and growth being created, and that impacts all of you, including Loudoun County, Morgan County, and everywhere else, probably.
That's right.
So I think jobs is a big issue in this whole thing.
Yes.
That's just my perspective on it. I mean, that's where it's at. Oak Ridge City Council seems almost like the third person at the table. Not by design, but by historical performance. I think that basically Oak Ridge has always worked in a vacuum. I can say these things because I'm an Oak Ridger, and I've been part of it a long time. My father worked at O&L 35 years. But the bottom line is we can get it done by ourselves. We can get it by. I think you, and this goes all the way back to what was the city manager in I can't remember his name. But anyway, it all goes back to they would never show up for meetings. They wouldn't do certain things. And I think there's a new cooperative nature in I give Sean Gleason a lot of credit for that. He brings that expertise. And I mean, you're in the business, so you know what's going on. And without question, Wade, no offense to the other two, is the most qualified in that whole industrial recruiting side, and he knows what's going on.
Right. And
you couldn't have a better person in charge of Rome County and making commission. I don't know, tough commission though. It is a tough commission.
We have a good working relationship.
Yeah, it's a good time. That's one of the toughest over the years. I tell you stories all day, but we don't have time. So anyway, I think that's exciting that Oak Ridge is allowing a shared leadership role.
Yeah, I think Terry used the word magical and tried to.
I hope that doesn't stick.
We'll design T-shirts and kind of clawed it back a little bit. When I talk about it, I use the word serendipity a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So I get a lot of credit for things I have not done. That has been true, I think, my entire career. But specifically as it relates to city council, I came on demurring. I came on city council at a time where the opportunity was there for a significant reset across the board.
Had been there for a while.
Well,
I'm just saying.
I can only speak to my time, right? So
you're humble, but you're wrong. You made a major role.
When I joined council, we were getting ready to transition to a new city manager, right? We started that search in earnest about 6 months after my election. So I was able to go into that with a preconceived idea on the type of individual, the executive makeup of an individual who would be able to come in, take advantage of the vision that the three of us had already laid out. We didn't know how we were going to get there, but we knew we wanted to work together. We knew we wanted to do a thing. We knew that a market was emerging, and we felt the temporal pressure to get something done quickly. So that completely informed the way that I was able to work through my decision process, and my peers on council, and I will tell you that body is 100% behind this. There is not a naysayer on council. Mayor Gooch has done a fantastic job of allowing. He's super supportive of allowing me to sit in this role as his proxy and execute this vision. And that's a key distinction we need to make, right? There is a challenge for having two elected people in a similar body. So I serve on the Development Corporation by the mayor's request, because if he's there, it's a whole different meeting, and it has to be, and that's legal, and that is good. So certainly appreciate the trust and confidence I've been given to enact that. Bringing Randy Heeman in as the city manager, someone coming from a larger city who understood how to do measured growth, was very important for us. He bought into this idea during the interviewing process. He's continued it. He's developed a fantastic working relationship with Wade and with Terry, and he has to have that because they're going to interface a ton. He brought Deputy City Manager in. Tom Bessemer's a fantastic executive. He's doing a great job. His director, was able to push down the culture of partnership, growth, doing the right thing for the citizens, all that, and change the mood at City Hall. And it's not taking anything away from Mark Watson, who is a fantastic city manager. It's just executive change brings all these all the time. So couple that, again, back to serendipity, with an emerging market, with strong federal partnerships and strong representation, right? Everything was set up for us to take advantage of what we're doing now. And the way we know this is working is because none of us are happy with the speed of movement. We want it to be faster, 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 faster. We feel it all the time, right? I had breakfast this morning with one of our stakeholder partners, and Mike McGill. And Mike leads the Oak Ridge Corridor Development Corporation. That was a key initiative, too. We recognize somebody has to wake up and think about this thing about 10 to 12 hours a day. And Mike McGill was the right guy to come in and do that. But he made Mike's great. He's fantastic. right? Mike made a comment this morning at breakfast. I haven't fact-checked these numbers, but Mike doesn't really, Mike's not too full of hyperbole.
Yeah, I understand.
Right? And so he made the comment that for $400 to $700 million in cleanup funds, we have a $10 billion investment on that same property. Right? That is a fantastic return on investment for the U.S. taxpayer. That's a fantastic ROI. Right. So those are the victories that we have to really expand upon. And Wade wants to shift, and we should, into the pressure of time and what that causes us from a decision-making standpoint as a body.
One thing I do want to say about your comment there, Alan, is, in defense of the city, you have to look at the cultural. So every community is shaped by, major events, and even generations are, children of World War II have a lot of similarities or behaviors because they were shaped by World War II. And I think the secret city, this was a city that could not talk, that did not collaborate, that had to keep everything inside the gates. And I think we're just at a time where we've moved past that. And even in our discussions with federal partners, we're really flipping the script, if you will, where it used to be they're here in our community doing their jobs, and then they work with us and have a conversation about what their jobs are, what the impacts are, do we have some needs? And now we're talking with the message that we're here, we know this industry, we stand ready, what can we do for you? And it is really amazing what's happening because of that message. You've got these national missions, and they're looking for a community to accomplish things, and we're saying we're here, reporting for duty, we're ready to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to not give my 90-minute response to that statement, but I'm going to, having lived here and been involved in this so much, I'm going to let it go. Let me say this. Let's move on to the next. Not that I don't support what you're saying. Yeah. I'm just saying what you all have been able to achieve could have been achieved earlier. That's all I'm saying.
So let me add one thing to this, and it is this is
the right people. We got the right people.
Right. But what you just represented, right, and your sentiment on that is exact. We have been facing this for years. It's not a bad thing. It is learned, and I think what the three of us have shown is just watch us. Trust us. Yep. Right?
I am going
Let
to
us do
one-minute response now. Let me just say this. When your private recruiting organizations, which you would have a well knowledge of this, and others, not the one you worked with, but everything, are being funded 60% and 70% by the federal government, there's no incentive to perform. There's no incentive for those chambers or those other organizations to perform. As those funds began to be withdrawn, it got more competitive. They had to do more work. And they had to focus on recruitment. That's not a bad thing. It's just the way it developed. It should have developed quicker.
Sure.
Grant told us at Boeing in 1982, we're sitting out there, I'm 20-something years old, he said, you better diversify and you better do it because it's coming. It's coming, folks. That's when Boeing was leaving the area.
And that's what we're doing now.
That's right. Yeah, that's my point is, finally somebody stepped up and got the job done. That's all I'm saying. All right. Let's talk about what Wade wants to talk about, man, because I think it's vital, because I talked to the Secretary about it. The Second Manhattan Project. Everybody's so excited because they're going to invest in nuclear. They're missing the whole point. The whole point is accountability is going to increase. Time's going to increase. Deliverables have to be done in a shorter time period. And a lot of people aren't used to doing that. So I think that we need that pressure. We need to be able to say, okay, we're going to get this done on schedule by 2028 or 2030. We're not going to tolerate that. If we've been building I'll give you a nuclear example. If we've been building 10 pits a year, we need to build 50 a year. Yes. We need to do whatever it takes to meet the Second Manhattan Project. And you can follow up on that. The only other two issues I have is your corridor, and you mentioned a moment ago, you have to have money and you have to have land. I want to know where those two issues are for us. How's the land doing? Does Chuck and them need to transfer land faster? What's the process?
Yeah, always yes. Yeah, the answer to that will always be yes. But go ahead.
Yeah. So Mayor Frank and I, along with Mike, visited our congressional delegation in D.C. a couple weeks ago and spent some time at headquarters. And our message was really threefold. It was we need number one to do exactly what Mayor Frank said a few minutes ago, is to present a united front saying we are ready to serve. Under your leadership, you direct us. But they're looking back at us and saying we need to know from your perspective what we need. And our message was we need three things. We need every inch of real estate that we can find.
We do.
On the reservation, off the reservation, in the region, in the greater region, we need it all, as much as we can find. That's number one. And how do we procure it? How do we develop it? How do we market it? All of those, that was number one. Number two is, you've already hit on it, but I don't think you hit on it with the urgency it's going to be required, and that's workforce. Just talk temporary workforce first. At Y12, you've got UPF, LPF in mercury treatment facility. At ORNL, you're going to have a second target station, installation neutron source. There's going to be an AI data center across the street from ORNL, TVA Clinch River, Kairos Power, Triso X, BWXT, Arano, Type 1 Energy. That's just what we know about now, and that's probably about 15,000 construction workers. They don't exist, and if we find them, there's nowhere to put them. That's temporary workforce. And then if you talk about permanent workforce, all those that we're going to need full integration and coordination between every workforce organization, K through university, to completely integrate their training programs so that there is a pathway for our kids into every job that's going to be needed on the reservation. Now, obviously, we're going to have to recruit from all over the world to do that, but there's going to have to be an integrated approach to doing this. And then, to accommodate all that workforce is going to require an incredible planning effort and funding effort in housing and infrastructure. All that has to happen yesterday.
Yep. Simultaneously, too.
Yes. So that's the urgency. And we're trying as a corridor. It's probably going to fall to the corridor to be that point organization to develop a strategy around this. And that's where we find ourselves right now, right at the infancy of that process.
Yeah.
We all want to build off that, or?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Wade touched on it, right? We can see the immediacy of what we need today. What will terrify you is trying to do any predictive analytics on what are the job requirements in 20 and 25 years, right? When all those things are up, built, running.
Inconceivable.
Yeah. And now we're approaching. So now, again, leveraging a broader stakeholder community who is willing to talk and engage and come to the table allows us to sit down and we just had one of these roundtable convening meetings and ask those top stakeholders, where are you going? What are your needs, right? How do we get our plans
and
now?
that invitation itself attracts them that you're actually asking those questions.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah, they're partners in this decision making.
That's right. Yeah, key partners. So, no, by all means. So, being able to sit down and say, "Hey, who at your organization is in charge of your future workforce planning? How do we get those numbers? How do we understand those jobs? How do we understand the labor categories and the labor composition you're going to need? Right? How do we make sure that we don't forget that it's not physicists and engineers that are doing the vast majority of this work? Right? We need people who are going to drive the trucks and do the welding and do the HVACs and do the things. Right? So
they're leaving the country.
But the great news is on that, all of our education partners are at the table and willing to do whatever it's going to take.
I think I get that when I talk to them.
We all want the same things, but getting it coordinated and integrated is probably our biggest challenge.
Let me take a couple minutes. Chandler, let's go to commercial.
From Oak Ridge, Tennessee, IB3 Global Solutions conducts operations around the world to enhance the U.S. national security posture and minimize radiological and nuclear threats. IB3 Global Solutions. Mission first.
Feeling overwhelmed with your business finances? At P&L Business Services, we handle all your bookkeeping, payroll, and tax needs. From federal tax returns to QuickBooks training, we've got you covered. With over 25 years of experience, we provide customized packages to fit your business. Focus on what you love most, building your business. Let us take care of the rest. Call 865-294-4792. P&L Business Services, empowering you to grow your business.
At Navarro, we partner with our clients to advance clean energy and deliver effective solutions for complex challenges in the nuclear and environmental fields.
welcome back. We're having a great show. We're talking to 3 leaders in the Oak Ridge corridor, 3 leaders for our county and city, and we're learning a lot. But we got to get ready. We got a lot of jobs, a future. We got a lot of stuff going on. So we're talking about this Oak Ridge, no valley, just corridor, right? Okay. Off subject a little, what will we see next week at the TVC?
So the TVC taking place in Oak Ridge the end of May at the new conference center. Very exciting, fantastic program. We're going to be hearing from industry leaders, elected officials. It's going to be, the tonality of it is going to be very similar to this conversation. Right? Okay. Everybody sees a ton of opportunity.
Who's your keynote?
I don't know if they've released all that yet.
Okay. That's a good job. So you keep it secret. So you're in the right
well, I still live in Oak Ridge, right? So
yeah, that's it. All right. So do we have dollars invested right now in this project?
We do. Yeah.
How much?
City did an initial allocation of $250,000 to stand up the corporation and start to do some of our early staffing.
Rowan County, Anderson County, anything?
Well, we're talking to Mike. We're working through a business model, trying to determine what our needs are going to be, and then we will be partners, and there will be other partners engaged as well.
For sure.
When did Mike got hired? What, 6 months ago? 8 months ago?
We made him start working.
Officially.
Yeah, we made him start working a long time ago. I think we started
in February.
Yeah, I think we started
doing it for a while.
Yeah, he's a neighbor. Right? We started paying him something other than baked goods. I think in the February March timeframe.
Yeah. Michelle got a deal through. You can sell them out of your house now. So anyway, he's a. Patriot's not the word, but he's very loyal to Oak Ridge. He's had a great career, Mike has.
He is. Good family. Very.
So what are the 2 or 3 priorities that are up next for you? What does the community need to help with? What do we need to do? I mean, what are you doing? Tell me about the governor's $50 million council and how that went. I mean, got a big allocation just to SMRs, right? I mean, that's his top priority.
Yeah, they added that this legislative session.
That's right.
Just to do a match and signal, I guess, to the federal government that the state of Tennessee is invested in that project as well. And, I mean, we have to look at the state of Tennessee, our economic development, our way of life, hospitals, schools, everything depends on TVA and reliable, affordable energy. And so we're having, future nuclear discussions, but we also have to look at where we are now, and we're having to check every business, of any kind of impact is having to run through TVA. Do we have the power available to be able to bring you here? And so, TVA is a huge part of the discussion, Alan. We're having a conference June 10th and 11th in Oak Ridge, bringing elected leaders, mayors, county judges in some states is what they're called, and commissioners from the 7 states of the TVA Valley, and we're going to have a day-long tour and a lot of speeches, got a lot of great people on the lineup there, but I mean, that's a big part of all of this.
Well, a big part of it is going to be, do they ever get operational again? I mean, they can run the day-to-day business. I have friends that are in the higher rankings, and actually at the same dinner, I talked to Lash and Mo and Mr. Mo about his role coming up, et cetera, et cetera. But the senators have expressed deep concerns and doubts about the management of the nuclear part from TVA. Yeah. And when that's a concern. I mean,
it's not optional. It has to happen, and it will happen.
What has to happen?
A functional TVA.
Yeah. Oh, no question.
A functional TVA board.
But I'm relating it to SMRs. Right now. And my question is, that's a chosen technology, but my question is that we got 4 Democrats on there right now. I say that appointed by Democrats. I don't know what they are, but I presume they are appointed by the Democrat administration. So you're going to see 5 new, probably Trump appointees to go with those 4 appointees. But one could consider that they're going to have some conditions with those appointments and what direction they go on there. I mean, any administration would have that.
I think it's unprecedented. I mean, maybe I've missed it, but I think it's unprecedented to have 2 sitting senators write an op-ed.
Yeah.
They are messaging that they want to see a particular goal achieved. They're messaging urgency, and I don't know who ends up being the appointees, but I think we're going to see a different kind of appointee, where traditionally, a lot of times, people that get put on boards are, well, this is somebody that can get through a confirmation hearing, or this is someone that lines up politically.
Exactly.
And the messaging has been, we want people who know the business, or that have some type of business experience at scale to be able to push these projects forward. Now, I don't know if that's what ends up happening, but that's the messaging.
I do.
That's been the messaging.
Yeah,
Well,
it's consistent.
But I guess what I'm getting at is, what if they re-look at all the SMR projects and all of that stuff? TV's kind of the chosen, that technology's kind of the way.
Well, in that technology,
way
you have Canada just now starting that construction project.
Right.
So, I mean, we're going to be able
That's
to
where he's saying it
lesson
has to go.
learn.
It has to go, right.
Yeah.
Well, the AI, again, getting back to a little bit of our conversation, but the development of AI in the Manhattan Project 2.0 is going to drive the urgency of standing up nuclear. That's why the TVA SMR project, being the only site in the United States that has already received permitting for that, that's why it has to happen. And there's no plan B.
It's funny. It was the devil 5 or 6 years ago. AI, robots taking over the world, and now everybody's just so positive on AI. It's amazing. I don't have a problem with it, but I mean, it's how everybody in the world has become such a dominant thing that everybody's racing to get ahead as much as they can, chasing the video, whatever. But the bottom line is that, I mean, it's essential. You're right. It's an essential problem.
I think you're going to see messaging coming from probably the administration about the importance of us succeeding at this project in AI advancement and development.
Sure.
I think that's what it's going to take to educate our people, and the things that we're seeing in engaging with elected officials and people in the industry, and even at Oak Ridge National Lab, we're starting to understand why it's going to be critically urgent for us to win at this race. That's going to have to become an education process.
I think the administration supports that concept. We want our domestic people.
They're driving.
That's right.
They're pushing.
That's right.
Yeah.
But this is all going to be contingent upon power.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, the AI race is a power race.
Sure.
And the power race is next generation nuclear. Next generation nuclear is the TVA Clinch River site. Right. So it has to get done. Right.
I like Tennessee as a site for AI. I mean, I've always said it's here. It's coming. They're doing it around the world. I mean, China is very far advanced.
TVA is a reliable energy source. If you can get it. And to be honest with you, I've talked to the leaders. They've done a good job cutting this year. I mean, they cut $1 billion in the first 6 months of their $8 billion overhead or whatever. They've laid off hundreds of administrators, and they're working at it. I think they're working at it. Now, I don't know about nuclear management. I'm not qualified. I hope they are. And I guess that's where I'm at. But, okay. So I see, what else we got on the Oak Ridge Corridor, guys? We got about 10 minutes left, maybe 15.
Let's see. So we talked about workforce. We talked about formation. We talked agenda items.
I think one of the, when I kind of laid out there what's coming and how to address it, not only is recruitment and integration and serving as this nuclear hub for development going to be important, but from all three of our perspectives, managing growth is going to become probably, from a governmental operational standpoint, our biggest challenge. Now, it's going to be within the framework of how we're growing and why we're growing, which is around the nuclear energy sector. But managing growth from investing in infrastructure, from land use planning, it's going to lead to challenges with people that don't want to grow.
Don't want to spend money.
All that goes with that.
Sure.
So that's very different for our communities. We've been steady and solid in who we are and how big we are for decades. That's changing.
Roane County's a unique county. People, they're the highest voter participation of any county in East Tennessee.
Really?
Of the registered voters over history. I haven't checked in 4 years, but everything. But the point is, they have a lot of municipalities. They have a lot of different personalities. That Anderson has some, but when you look at Harriman and you look at Rockwood and you look at Kingston, there's a lot of energy in different pockets, so you get a lot of participation and stuff. Really a great county. It's got a lot of, but it is a rural county. It's a conservative county.
But here's
They don't
a,
like Texas.
here's a little known fact that we really just learned in the last week or so.
Okay.
Rowan and Anderson counties are in the top 4 counties in the state of Tennessee for average wages. And that's
surprising.
mainly obviously due to our DOE installations and the
32%
contract.
of DOE workers live
Right.
in Rowan County, 34 here and 30 in Knoxville, roughly. There's some sparks allowed everywhere, but yeah, you're right. It's exactly right. And R&L is completely in Rowan County, correct?
There's a part of spallation neutron source. The second target station is going to be in Anderson
It's
County.
Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the available property potentially on the ORNL campus north would be in Anderson County.
Does it grow population in the next 10 years? Do you think? We get
Oh, it's significant.
outside of the preserve?
Just in the and you
Yes,
let you
I mean,
speak to it on the Anderson County side, but just in developments we have planned in Rowan County right now, we're looking at 12,500 new residents within the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Put us over 70,000. Now,
We don't have that kind of growth. I mean, the majority is really happening for you where I think about when I first got elected and was serving on the Transportation Planning Organization, one of the graphics they put up was population trends through 2040, and Rowan County was on a downward trajectory.
We were, absolutely.
And I can remember talking with Executive Woody about it, why, what's going on, and it stayed there, and that has turned around. I mean, it's...
for lots of reasons. I mean, some of it's spilling over because as Knox County gets built out, and Loudoun County's has their leadership is trying to push back against some of the substantial growth that they've seen over the last 20 years. Some of that spillover, but then where we're growing around what we're talking about in the nuclear industry, that's really going to drive what we see in the future.
Being involved in some of those counties and Knox involved in the growth issues and the expansion, the real complaint is we're not building single homes, single family homes, but we're building apartments and they're everywhere. We want to stop. A lot of people, a lot of organizations like myself want to stop the expansion of that. They don't mind corporate.
Well, you do that in targeted ways. If you've got to accommodate population growth, then target areas where you want to grow and keep that very confined to high density. And then protect your agricultural areas and your more rural areas where people don't want to change. And so we are in the infancy of that process in Rowan County right now.
But you're exactly right. Like in Farragut, they don't want any more. They're done. They don't want any more planning. They don't want anything. Their community's being overridden. That's just an example. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, from a Oak Ridge City Council standpoint, I think over the last 12 months, we've done more rezoning to medium residential than anything. Right? We had Main Street lofts go in. We just did another one. There's going to be a large number of townhomes built out by the Ezra Gate side. Right? We've got some townhome development that's happening here in the center of town. Right? That's not historically what we've had. We've had a lot of single-family homes. Right? A few apartments here and there. We're starting to see that shift on sort of the periphery of the east side of town. Now, that creates a cascading effect on infrastructure, schools, right, that we have to be prepared for. So on our side, getting the relationship between city council and school board is very important, right? So we can communicate those potential changes to them. And similar to be able to call Mayor Frank and say, hey, we're thinking about another 1,500 to 2,500 residents right out by Ezra Gate. That's all Anderson County people.
But you need to, I mean, this is my citizen opinion, political opinion, whatever. You're going to have to build an elementary school across the line in Rowan County, and not just at Linden. You're going to have to get to that side. You can't serve those people by trying to keep a location. And I love history. I love Oak Ridge. Right. The bottom line is there's going to be more and more resources poured into that area around.
That's correct.
Just to support.
That's right.
I come in. The recruitment we've had, however mediocre over the last 20 years, has been based on schools and accessibility stuff.
And again, quick plug. Is this isn't an issue that Oak Ridge is going to tax our way out of.
That's correct.
Right. We're too geographically diverse and too large and too low in a population base, and we're never going to have the population density necessary to tax our way through this. So the answer is economic development.
Absolutely.
The answer is what we're talking about here today. The reason we're looking at increasing the tax base and the commercial tax rolls is so we can take those dollars and reinvest them.
Well, let's be thankful for technology. We now have internet tax dollars, which has changed the budgets in every county and state and everywhere. And
But from a capital investment side, Alan, the value of the projects that we're talking about, it's one of the reasons why we're engaged in this sector, is it has the potential to really supplant some of the dependency that our local governments have on residential property tax.
For sure.
Which is the point. we're trying to reduce the tax burden on our citizens, and the companies that we're recruiting really help make a difference.
Do they absorb it in a commercial way?
Alan, before we slip away today, I want to make sure to say how important it is that we're working together. And
we got 9 minutes, by the way.
oh, okay.
You're stealing my thunder.
Well, I thought we might be at the end. So
We're going to take one more commercial break. See Sean again. Go ahead.
well, we have. I mean, think about Governor Lee's State of the State. So 2 years in a row, we have our region, our area, and East Tennessee is not traditionally on the map at the state level, but we have the governor mentioning Oak Ridge by name in the State of the State address. Then we have Congressman Fleischman, and we just went with Mike McGill from the Development Corporation, Executive Creswell and I went to visit the congressman as one of those stops, and he's the head of 5, is it 5?
9.
Well, 9 caucuses and 5 particularly around nuclear. And so we're going to try to do a little bit more between the 2 counties and the city and get up there a little bit more. I know Sean is already up there quite a bit and maintaining those relationships and having those conversations. But these represent, this time represents true opportunity that we need to capitalize on for the people who live here and for the next generations. And so we're committed, and I hope that a lot of folks understand our commitment and support it.
Yeah, that's well said.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Chad, give us one more 2-minute commercial break, or what do we have there, and then we'll come back and finish up. We got to let Wade talk.
IB3 Global Solutions conducts operations around the world to enhance the U.S. national security posture and minimize radiological and nuclear threats. IB3 Global Solutions. Mission first.
Feeling overwhelmed with your business finances? At P&L Business Services, we handle all your bookkeeping, payroll, and tax needs. From federal tax returns to QuickBooks training, we've got you covered. With over 25 years of experience, we provide customized packages to fit your business. Focus on what you love most, building your business. Let us take care of the rest. Call 865-294-4792. P&L Business Services, empowering you to grow your business.
At Navarro, we partner with our clients to advance clean energy and deliver effective solutions for complex challenges in the nuclear and environmental fields.
Welcome back to Between the Lines. We were talking a little bit about how things have gone. So it's been a great show. They've really enlightened us. I always measure a show by how much I learn, and there's a lot going on here. And I really am more impressed with the overall cooperation and management skills. And these 3 individuals have a lot of resources. And I'm talking about personal resources, skills, developments, and leadership. And we're lucky to have all 3. Wade, go ahead. You want to talk a little bit about saying goodbye and how wonderful you kind of Terry cut you off. Terry cut you off a little bit.
No, she didn't cut me off at all. I'm thinking now I'm going to end up stealing her thunder a little bit.
It's okay.
It is important. It is. You said, what do you want? You started asking a question a little while ago about what do you want the public to know?
To do or no. Yeah.
Let's start with no. First of all, we're not sitting at this table. There's not a coordinated effort. There's no chance of our region being able to serve in any type of leadership role nationally without everyone being totally engaged. And I can't tell you how much I owe to both the people sitting to my left and right. We like working together. So that's a great place to start right there. We share the same values in what's good for our people. And we also share a lot of the same values about how to make that work. So when that's your starting place, and then you're able to set a goal out in front of you, then you're going to be able to get a lot of things done. And I think the results of not just where we are, but the potential for where we're headed, it starts there. So I just want to say how much I appreciate both of them. Mayor Frank has helped teach me how to be a mayor, for crying out loud. I mean, such a resource and a mentor to me. But I just wanted to say that before we wrapped up today. I think I'm stealing her thunder a little bit.
I thought she got it in.
Yeah, I did.
Good job.
Now, who do you want to praise?
I mean, you know, it just at some point becomes piling on, all right? And the three of us have worked so well together for so long, and I think the net impact of that is it permeates the organizations that we represent.
Yeah.
Right, and that's very important. So, like,
I think it's culture setting.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think doing hard things and doing them with vigor and in a very above board and honorable way has been a fantastic example to kind of set. Right. So for any of your viewers who are watching and hopefully their takeaways are, my elected officials, be that Anderson County, Rowan County, or City of Oak Ridge, are doing hard strategic things. They're doing it in partnership. They're trying to do transformational and generational change. Those are big things, and we're not afraid of them because we can get that done.
Your cooperation and leadership makes me, I'll do a quick story. Karl Barth was one of the greatest theologians around. He was a Presbyterian, just brilliant, right? Well, he taught in the Catholic seminaries, and they used to tell him why. He said, because they need the most help. They don't know how to preach. And so I said, but he used to tell every one of his students, right? He used to tell every one of his students, you've got to decide today whether you want to be a bishop or a priest. If you're going to spend your life trying to be a bishop, it'll impact everything you do. If you just want to be a parish priest, then you can do wonderful things. I think there's a little bit of that here. You guys aren't trying to be bishops. You're trying to do your job, represent your communities, not try to steal the spotlight and all of that. You guys are just trying to make a difference, and I think that makes it work better. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, it feels that way for sure.
Yeah, I would add to that, though, yes, but the urgency of the moment that we're serving in calls us to do more than just help our communities. Like, this is important to the future of our country.
Yeah.
And when I first started thinking of it in those terms, I kept asking people around me, I'm like, tell me I'm looking at this the wrong way. This can't fall to us to help solve this problem. But it absolutely does.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And so all of this is true, but having the moment and the importance of this moment calls us to do more than what we would do under different times.
Yeah.
It's Halsey's old line, about the Admiral. That's what the Admiral said. It's ordinary men doing extraordinary things.
Absolutely. I mean,
and that's what you have to step up.
And that's the people of our community, Alan. I mean, we didn't do it. We look at TVA and the Norris Dam being the first dam in the TVA system, and that was a massive enterprise, a massive undertaking that was transformational. And then just a few years later, that the power, in part from TVA, powers the Manhattan Project, another national call to service. Those are the people in our community that worked in those jobs. And one of the things I'm always amazed by are some of the events for our Cold War patriots. And these are a lot of folks that experienced sickness, dealing with materials that we didn't know what we were dealing with then, we know now. Those folks have not lost their pride in doing what was needed for this country. And that spirit still exists here.
8 seconds. That's anything else?
No, that's a fantastic.
Thanks, Alan.
Alan,
Thank you.
great.
Thank you, Alan.
We'll get TV out here in a couple of weeks. We'll see what's going on.
Good.
That's better. Thank you, folks. Thanks for watching.